lived here. This is what you are supposed to do. And things. So I'm just trying to buttress the fact that nation building is the duty of all of us, both those in government and those outside government.
It's all right, sir. Okay, Nigeria at 65. A 65-year-old man would probably be a grandfather, if my guess, maybe who could even exceed to another generation.
Depending on grace.
Yes, true. And would have had a definite identity. There's a question I've always asked. I've asked it on my social media handles before. And I want to ask, sir, if we say a Nigerian, who would you say a Nigerian is? I'm talking about identity now. How can we describe a Nigerian?
Well, I think everyone is first a human being.
Yes, sir.
It's where you are located that defines your citizenship.
Yes, sir.
So you are first a human being, and you must recognize that. So if your source is now Nigeria, and your growth is in Nigeria, your development is in Nigeria, then you are Nigerian, especially if you were born by those who had been located here before you.
Yes, sir.
And so that makes you a Nigerian. But we must differentiate between just being a Nigerian and being a responsible Nigerian.
Okay.
Because as a citizen of a country, there are things you are supposed to do. You are supposed to contribute to the development of that nation. Before you are able to do that, it is expected that in that nation you receive health care as a child, you received education, and based on that education, your mind has been developed to be able to make contribution to the growth of that nation. So your contribution will come either by reason of the work you are doing, the income you are earning, and as you earn, you also pay taxes.
Yes, sir.
As you trade, as you invest, you have profit, and based on your profit, you pay taxes. That's what truly makes you a responsible citizen of Nigeria.
I get that. Let me stay on that point a bit. You talked about culture somewhere on another interview platform. I don't know if it's still the Housing for Africa platform, but you mentioned about culture. Yes, I'm sure it's Housing for Africa. You mentioned about culture being a way of life.
Yes.
So if I were to ask, what is our way of life as Nigerians, or what should be the ideal? I'm still on that point of identity, because I still feel for us to get that participatory, how do I call it, commitment from the government and the populace, there should be something that binds us in a way that cuts across all of our divides.
Okay, to my understanding, culture is about how we live.
Yes, sir.
It's our way of life, what we believe in. When I say believe in, I'm not talking about religion.
Yes.
I'm talking about values that we hold
there
as supreme or as important to us. And we know that because we are from various parts of Nigeria, the cultural beliefs are a lot different. But the first way to behave, I believe, is love God, love man.
Yeah.
That's the best culture.
True.
Love God, love man. And I can enlarge that through what I learned in my first year in primary school. And it's about You may think it's about an insect, but it's about life. That's also culture. That's a value.
True.
You know, in Yoruba, they taught us this poem in primary one. They called it infant one then. It was not yet primary one. So they say, Yi ẹsẹ̀ rẹ sí apá kan, má ṣe tẹ kòkòrò ni. Kòkòrò tí ìwọ kò náání ni, Ọlọ́run ló lè dá. Says, shift your leg, your foot. Do not step on that ant. That ant that seems insignificant, you cannot create it. It's God that can create it. You know the value it's trying to teach us.
Yeah.
The value of life. So if you are not permitted to take an ant's life, how do you get to taking a human being's life? So that's a culture.
Yes, sir.
You know, a culture that respects life.
But ironically, politicians have turned that. I'm careful to say, have turned that your I don't know what else you call it, adage now, or value transfer upside down, because it seems like most states in Nigeria, it's obvious during elective season, including our very precious Lagos, you have so much kind of violence against party oppositions, against personal interests, against so many things, and sincerely to say, even death. It's there in the news, so I'm just making reference to at least the closest that you can relate with.
Can I make you understand it better?
Yes, sir.
I don't think it's those politicians you are saying that cause that.
All right.
Because if you truly see politicians in their game, sometimes you will hate yourself for supporting one person against another.
True.
Because what they do in politics is sustain interests. So the person you think is on this side and the other on one side, you will just see them after the serious argument. You see them shaking themselves, tapping themselves at the back. It's those people who don't understand that are in violence. You don't see the politicians in violence. I was watching channels this morning, and Felix Moka and Bolaji Abdullahi were talking from two different sides, opposing themselves. When the program ended, Bolaji said, "My brother, Felix, how are you doing?" Felix said, "Bolaji, my brother." Where is the violence? None. It's those who really do not understand, who think that the violent must take it by force.
But they are supporters of the same persons. That's the place where it gives me concern.
That's the challenge I'm saying. Those people have supporters.
Yes, sir.
Supporting A and those supporting B. What sense does it make when their supporters are fighting and A and B are not fighting? I think the problem is with the supporters.
Okay. Let me not, for want of time, because I think I should be able to tell my followers or supporters when to draw.
There are times that we think we have leadership problem.
Yeah.
I tell people that I agree we have leadership problem, but our leadership problem is rooted in the bigger followership problem. Because anytime a leader will be chosen, let's imagine there are 10 of us here. We're a group. We've been relating. If they want to choose a leader, they won't go outside and bring one for us.
Definitely.
They'll just take one
from that same space.
So, if that leader does not outgrow the mindset that we use
the average mindset,
that's the same thing he's going to do.
True. That explains it. That explains it. Earlier today, President gave a very wonderful speech addressing Nigerians of the journey so far and pointing to some possibilities ahead. I don't know what's been your maybe what stood out for you in some of the things that the president said today.
Well, I was able to listen to it, though there were a few hiccups, but I was able to listen to it. And I caught him talking about, He talked about the improvement we have had in our economy.
Yes, sir.
He talked about what improvement we have had in education. He talked about electricity, that we are not there, but he mentioned things that have been done. He spoke a little bit about security.
Yes.
Some places have been overtaken before, but we
We're
reduced that.
gaining back.
I particularly like the sentence that he called us nation builders. We're trying to build our nation. So it stood for me that the country is getting better. We may not know it now because all of those things he has mentioned are happening at the macro level. Yeah. And the truth is that if you don't settle the macro level, it can't trickle to the micro level. So this food that we are saying, does that put food on my table? Does that make the food cheaper? Food will be cheaper, but it will not happen immediately. Because if we don't settle those macro things, the micro will not settle. Let me also remind you and Nigerians that it's faster to destroy, but it takes longer to build. So if we imagine that for many years we have suffered, let's imagine all of the years in politics, let's say 1999 to
this
now.
Time.
If you say that things were destroyed, can we really get everything amended in 2 years? I do not think so.
No.
I do not think that it will happen in 10 years. But what should happen to us is that we should have milestones that we can measure. Then in 2 years, we look back, oh, this was not where we were 2 years ago, so we've done better. Then we go, you know, there's a saying, inch by inch, life is hard. The point of measurement before was in imperial. Yeah. We are using feet and yards, and yard is 3 feet. So if you want to go going by yard, it's harder. But inch by inch, just little by little, it says it's a cinch. That is, it's simple. So if we decide to take our development in bits, little by little, taking the quick wins and doing them, and then what's next? So let's celebrate our small wins so that we can celebrate bigger wins. That's the way I look at it from my own angle.
Another thing that, for me, one of the things that stood out for me, generally speaking, from his speech, was the fact that throughout his speech, he did not throw shade in government. Unlike the previous government before him, for the most part of the term, they were always blaming the predecessor. It's my predecessor, it's our predecessor, they did that, this point, we met that, we inherited that. But he's taken off his mind from whatever anybody has done. Yes, he mentioned a few, but he also mentioned the good things that brought us to this point, or that made this possibility in the first place. That was something I feel was very, very commendable, that, okay, this is somebody who is taking responsibility for how far I've been. And even if you look at his measurement, he was not measuring most things beyond him.
True.
He mentioned most of the things and measured it from where he came in and where he is right now, which will give us the inch by inch.
Yes, that's analysis. The attribute of a good leader.
You have just...
You look at the situation in your hand and look at how to deal with it.
Yeah.
To be referring to previous government is like whining. It's like complaining.
We had a lot of that some time ago.
There's no need to murmur. This is the problem on hand, and this is how we are going to deal with it. And then we begin to take our measurements.
However, some things also came to me as a little bit of question. One of which will be the part where he talked about our healthcare systems. As far as the average Nigerian knows, as far as most people are aware, because it's always there in the news, most of our political leaders, most of our major leaders are always flying from one country including our most prestigious office from Nigeria to whatever country, I don't want to mention name, for health check, for if we don't yet at this point have the facility to manage or to be able to check our prominent men and treat them within the country, can we really say we have achieved health-wise? Is it safe to say what he said was actually really, really, or was a hopeful statement?
Okay, I will say that, like he said, we are growing.
Yes, sir.
We are making effort. There are some of these decisions that are based on choices. There are some aspects of our medical science that we are really good at. There are those that we are struggling. And while we are struggling, we must look for how to build. It is not when you are building that you want to live under that house.
True.
So while he's struggling to put that in place, it's only somebody who is alive that can end that. So in the meantime, he can visit whoever his specialist was, and while he's building this. And the moment this is completed and it is assured that it can be done safely, then the other one will not be necessary again. You understand? That's the way I think it should go. Many years ago, for example, our Aso Rock clinic was perfect. Perfect. But you will recall the wife of the late President Buhari saying that it was even difficult to treat malaria in Aso Rock. So something happened. There was a vandalization between, I think it was between Obasanjo's era and Jonathan's era. And as a professional, I have met one of the professionals who was supposed to be part of rehabilitating the place. But I think something happened. The project did not go through. So that's to tell you that it's not in a position where an incumbent president can rely on that. He can treat himself. But I'm sure things must be in the offing now on how to bring it back to its days of past glory. Then it can be relied on to treat the political.
Let's talk about education a little bit because you had a very wonderful experience growing. And I don't know, at any point growing up, maybe primary, maybe secondary, I don't know, at any point, was there a time where you had free education or some level of scholarship made easy available growing up?
Education was free in the South. In Lagos, we were not paying. But when I got to Kaduna, we were paying. In the primary school, we were paying. So, and although it was £1 per term, but you know what money was then?
Yeah.
So, but eventually it became free education for everyone. I think the nation was trying to copy what Chief Obafemi Awolowo did in the West then. But you know, my opinion is that government should just concentrate on primary education rather than say education should be free at all levels. Primary is the foundation.
Yes.
If you get a foundation right, sir, the person on that foundation will get the inspiration to build on it. You know, some of those people, many will have passed away now, but I'm sure we'll still have some of them in their 90s. And those who live long enough, maybe 100.
Yeah.
In those days in Nigeria, went through free, just had primary education.
True.
And
unless we had those reports.
And they ran our civil service. They were speaking Queen's English.
Very detailed.
They were writing cursive, very beautiful cursive writing with primary education. Then we got a generation that with that primary education, they started sitting for correspondence exams for O levels. As a child, I would look at Daily Times. There were two prominent newspapers, New Nigerian and Daily Times. You will find them in the north. On the front page of each one, you either see exam success, correspondence, school, or rapid results. So people were going through their secondary education through correspondence. Some did A-levels through correspondence. Chief Obafemi Awolowo wrote his first degree. His first degree was in commerce. It was an external degree. It was by correspondence. It was later that he studied law. And most of the law he did here, and the final year he had to travel to UK. There is a story that he wanted to even take a loan from an industrialist then to travel. And the man said, I do not believe that you can do it. And he was there after he sought for money. He went. He later became premier of that same Western state.
Western region.
So I believe that when you have very good primary education, it will kindle your taste to improve. It was in my own infant one. I was not yet 7. It was in my infant one. I joined infant. You know, in those days, academic section was January to December. So by 1965, I was January. I was only 5 years and 6 months old. For 5 years, 5 months. But I had joined in January. By the time before I finished 1 year, I already had my Bible in Yoruba language. As a 6-year-old boy, when the devotion was going on early in the morning, and we are reading Bible passages, I would get up and read my own passage. So as a 6-year-old boy, I'm trying to tell you of the quality of education then.
Yes, sir.
I was able to read. I was able to write a letter to my father at age 6. My grandma said, write your dad. Let him send the money for your Christmas clothes. You know, we enjoyed,
yes,
you know.
It was.
I had not written a letter before, but she was dictating. She said, write, dear father. It was in Yoruba. And I wrote. She said, put comma. So it was in primary school. It was in my infant one, age 6, that I learned when you write, dear father, put a comma, come and start from the next line. So it was quality education. By the time I got to Form 1, one of us made an error, and all of us shouted in English. Instead of saying, give 1 bowl of rice to 1 person, he said, give 1 rice to 1 people. All of us just laughed. Why did we laugh? Because our primary education made us realize that he was not speaking good English. So what's the problem now? That a university graduate is struggling to speak English. So let everybody do proper primary education. And then if you can afford it, you will even look for the money, because you will have seen the beauty of education. When you sponsor yourself, or your parents pay for you to do secondary, you sponsor yourself to do university level, you will know the quality of education. You won't just be doing anything anyhow.
My concern is looking at the current system of leadership we've had recently, and hearing what the president said this morning, giving statistics of we had about 120 secondary schools as at the time of independence, and the figure we have now. And I was looking at, should we be measuring alone? It's good to measure by quantity, by location, but also I was, like you concluded, looking at the quality, because those days our parents told us, with that primary school certificate, you are employable.
True.
And you have also justified that by saying how impressive they were, not just because they were lack of persons, but now we God will help us where we are.
It's about our population. We are growing.
Aside the population, sir, do you think the government is actually doing much? Looking at our budget, our budgetary distribution for education, that's one thing, because it's even one thing to even budget, another thing to be able to even deliver or distribute the budgeted.
Yes.
Because every year we had surplus, and yet our educational budget is not moving at the pace of the demand. As I speak to you, there are places in this country that public schools still have no windows and doors. I've seen them. I've traveled a bit in some few states in this country. I've seen them.
Okay, let me tell you something about budget.
Yes, sir.
When you hear budget, it's not that the money is somewhere.
Yes, sir.
It's just a proposal. So after that budget, then you begin to look for the resources. If you don't get sufficient resources to fund it, you can't implement that budget. So we must first realize the predicament of government as far as that is concerned. And that's why people need to also do their own part. People need to pay taxes. People need to do less of, it's in the Bible that God told the Israelites that they have robbed him. So when we don't pay taxes, it's like robbing government. And then at the same time, we are expecting government to do things. It takes a lot to run government. When somebody, if you pay, let's imagine that you pay tax, because some people say, after all, I'm paying my tax. When you pay tax, that tax will be used to build roads. That tax will be used to provide water. That tax will be used to provide electricity. That tax is expected to be used to provide for health. If you look at how much did you pay and what can it carry? So it requires a lot of resources to be able to run. I'm not saying that government is doing perfectly, but I'm saying that government also needs help, and we must look at it from this angle and contribute our bit as citizens of the nation.
I agree with you, sir, on that. And I'm also looking at the part where I know budgeting means it's like a plan you have. Literally, it's a plan you have. And then, but there are other sectors that enjoy. And I'm saying also that each year when the government is giving, they now talk about leftover from some sectors. I believe when I have a budget, maybe I made a budget for 1,000 naira, for instance, and then I put that every item on that list, 10 of them will get 100 naira allocation. Yeah. And then for some reason, I was able to now negotiate, and I get maybe 2 naira extra discount from any of the item. The one that maybe may require 12 naira should automatically, or there should be a way of transferring that. I'm saying this because my concern is because most of the persons who have had to pilot key sectors enjoyed some of this good education. One, enjoyed some of the benefits that came with it, which were the free education at some point, the flexible payment at some point. They enjoyed certain benefits, and at some point there were even stipends for students. Now, but when they now get into office, instead of replicating or even improving on some of these things they enjoyed, they now begin to think of saving for themselves, or for elective seasons, and all for personal gain, because, like we say, I don't want to go into details because people have.
I think what we
and store monies in places money should not be, and there are needs that needs this money.
I think what we need is priority.
Okay.
Education is priority.
Yes, sir.
You know, if you properly educate people, you may be spending less on health.
True.
You may spend less on health. So it's about priority, and that's where governance really matters. If you talk about those who try to save money for themselves, that's bad behavior, and I think the nation should have a way of upholding the rule of law.
I agree with you. I agree with you on
so that's neither here nor there. But I mean, once somebody is doing what is not right on that seat, is not putting the allocation where we all agreed that it should go. There should be a way of making them pay for wrong decisions.
True. You know? Let me touch on another thing. The president talked about some of the extra. I'm saying I was there on that issue because the president talked about the subsidy removal and some of the effects, the positive effect on figure Because as far as most of us don't know, we don't know how much is in the treasury, how much has been spent for what. You understand me, sir? So talking about those extra, talking about those generations or those things we've been able to save. I'm particular about the channeling. And one of the places he mentioned about channeling those resources is where we now talk about the student loan. Now, some students were paid while going to school, giving stipends. I remember there's a name they used to call it even in the advent of our early democracy, government bursary or something.
There was bursary. No, they are different.
Yeah.
There was bursary, there was loan.
Yes.
Let me speak from my experience.
Okay.
And I.
Why you say that?
Okay.
Let me add the question to it so that you just address it at once, because we're running low on time. The question will now be, should we be thinking of loan as against, maybe even if making it at the primary level or secondary level, free and compulsory education? So talk to us, sir.
Okay, you know, I already said that people should pay for education.
Yes,
Education really is not cheap.
True.
Because when you know the cost of ignorance, you know that you should pay for education. So, but somehow there should be some package to relieve you. And this also happened years ago to some of my generation and some earlier. There were student loans then. But I particularly witnessed people filling loan forms and putting fictitious addresses because they did not intend to pay back. So imagine that kind of mindset since the 70s. Now, if such people get into government, and I know that a lot of them are in government, a lot of them are in corporate organizations, if they didn't pay loan
then
as students, do you think they will pay loans now? So maybe if we check some of the banks that have gone bankrupt and things like that, we need to check. So there is a need to correct our mindset to think that things are free. It's even criminal. So they knew it was not free because putting wrong addresses, putting false signatures. I watched it. I watched it done. I didn't get a loan because I had thought in my mind that they say he who goes are borrowing, goes are sorrowing. That was what I had in my head. So I didn't even bother to take any form. But I saw people do this thing. So let's imagine that what the government does now, if people refuse to pay, where do you think we will be in future? It's a matter of sowing the wind, expecting to reap the wild wind. So some of the things we're experiencing now, we sowed the seeds long ago. Bursary used to be free. Bursary is like a grant.
Yeah.
Bursary is, so when government gives you a grant, you can take that. But there's a limit to amount of grant. The loan was usually higher in figure than the bursary, which was grant. So I believe that loans will help, and when you pay, you will realize. So you will cherish your education. Those who japa, who go to study, they work now.
They know
we hear
experience.
So they understand it. So we are really not doing anything new. We should just be serious and adjust our mindsets.
I will take my last question because of time on the tax laws the government is working on. At such a time like this, is one question. I'll just give you two questions in one. You touch on them before we come back to wrap up. The tax laws, in your own opinion, do you think this is the time we should be thinking about taxes? I understand the place of the responsive Nigerian, which you've emphasized even from most of your conversation. I understand that part. But I'm also looking at it from the government side and the operators of this system, because it's one thing to have a good system. If you have a bad manager of the system, it will still not yield the expected results. And we've had situations where normal loan, bank loan, normal business loan, and then you take a loan that you were supposed to pay for 6 months at total interest, and then you realize that it's 7 months and 8 months, and they are still deducting from your salary or from your income what you have fully paid 2 months ago. Do you not think that is likely to happen when we really, really enforce this and bring everybody on board. Or I'm looking at it on the other side. The Lagos experience had shown, even though the government is doing well, trying to do better, you've talked about the blue rail and all, blue rail line,
yeah.
and all that. But they are the people on the street, the market woman, the bus driver, the conductors. I've been in public transport where you pay 15 naira for a fare and you have like 14 passengers and you have maybe close to 5 or 6 stops where the conductor have to come down and settle, or people will come to the door and collect money from the fare you are paid. I'm thinking, how much is it going to give to driver? How much is it going to give to buy fuel and then maintenance of the car? And all of that. Don't you think it smells some trouble around?
Okay, let me answer your first question. You have packed a lot of things.
I really wanted to.
You said, should it be the time we are talking about tax? Let me say there's no time we shouldn't talk about tax.
Right.
Jesus himself said, give unto Caesar
what
is
belongs
Caesar's,
to Caesar,
and give unto God what is God's. So we should pay taxes. I agree that taxes should be streamlined. And I'm sure government at various levels are trying to see how it can be streamlined. Because when they are not streamlined, they could come in as weight because so many people are coming. So I believe that government should work towards streamlining, which is what the federal tax laws are about. I believe that, there are times you need to test some things, and when they work, you now ramp up. You repeat them in other places. So let's give the model that the federal government has put forward. Let's give it a chance to survive, and let's see how it works. I'm sure once it works very well, then the states will be able to
copy and
do the right thing. So I don't think tax is what we should really be arguing about if we are just doing our own bit. And from what I understand, the poorer will not be paying as much tax as they were paying before.
Hopefully.
So it's those who are making so much and are evading tax that really have issues to contend with. And let's just wait and see. Let's not start with the average Nigerian doesn't trust government.
The government may have not given the average Nigerian a reason to trust.
But the truth is that the average Nigerian is the one in government.
So that's where the complication is.
So it's like me not trusting myself. So I must first begin to trust myself. Then I can trust government. First give benefit of the doubt. So let's trust government. Let something happen. Let's measure it. If it doesn't work, then we can come back and shout and say, hello, this was not what we agreed. But from what I have seen, from somebody who wasn't paying sufficient tax, that's before I got into government. Right. When I drove on a road and saw how good it was, I shouted to my wife, I said, I have to increase my tax. That was years ago. And I did, because I saw what tax
had done
on the road system. So let's try it.
Okay. In closing, maybe in just 1 minute, drawing strength from your book, your memoirs, you call Service with a Difference.
With a Difference,
I hope I got that right. Yeah. Service with a Difference. You said you dedicated the last chapter as a way of encouraging Nigerians.
Yes, I called it Better Days Are Ahead.
I don't know. Maybe is that something you think you want to talk to Nigerians, especially on this 65th anniversary, to be hopeful about, drawing strength from your office experience and your experience in life as an elder statesman, let me call it?
Okay, my experience is that Nigerians are good.
Yes, sir.
Nigerians are good. All they're expecting is an example. So if you do something well, a Nigerian wants to follow you. So I will say that as we are all seated, located in various areas, we are at one level of leadership or the other. We should try and lay good example. Let's do what we think is right. And we'll see how others will just follow us to do what is right. And then be hopeful about our nation. It's a nation in progress. We can't be comparing ourselves to America. It's over 200 and something years old. We're just 65. But that we're 65 does not mean we cannot do better. Singapore is not as old as us. But we just need a serious leader. If you imagine, if you recall the president's speech, he said some decisions that other governments were afraid to take, they have taken. That's why we're experiencing this. You know what the Bible calls it? It says it's a short-term pain, but there's an eternal weight of glory. So there's something better coming, which will be heavier than this pain. And like the Yorubas will say, if you have suffered for 10 years and you enjoy for one day, you'll forget those 10 years of suffering. So when this good time, the refreshing time comes after this pain, we will forget this period of suffering. But we must work together, cooperate together, pray together. There are people who have only curses for Nigeria. No, don't curse Nigeria, because if you curse Nigeria, that's what you will get. So we should pray for Nigeria. We should hope for Nigeria that it will get better.
Thank you so very much, sir.
It's a privilege.
Thank you so very much for coming on the show, sir. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying tuned with us. It's been wonderful having in the house our very own commissioner, Mr. Toyin Ayinde, giving us wonderful conversation about our independence. We want to wish you right here from our studios, Christians in Politics, and RTMTV Television Ministry wishes Nigeria, wishes you a happy independence celebration. That'll be all we'll be taking for today until we come your way again next time. Have a wonderful day.